will go ahead and bet this one. I think that it's we probably just get enough folds. I guess you can have a 4 or a smallish king, 5-6, maybe even ace-3. I guess we got the gut shot, and the 7s and 8s might be good. So it's kind of annoying because it looks like he's going to have. Well, I guess he's going to have a 4 or a 5 or. Yeah, 4, ace-4 kind of makes sense. I don't know what he does if we bet turn, you know. He probably folds, but he might not. He might not fold. But I think on that sort of dry board, I think betting is okay. It's going to fold there, but I will be looking to 3-bet Hugh Street very soon in that sort of instance. Especially now we are this short a stack, and I will go ahead and 3-bet here actually if he holds this. It's actually linked. I'm going to raise it up here. Again, just kind of a little bit largish, I guess, because the ace-3 is not the most playable of hands, and I don't mind getting a little bit of extra fold equity. It's a lot of bobbing and weaving at the moment. We're in a little bit of a tough spot, but we're certainly going to just keep maneuvering, and hopefully, and I think it's likely, one of these guys will make a big mistake soon, but yeah, I think I might let this one go, but it's pretty close. My biggest concern at the moment is that we're not going to be able to raise much on Noah, just, you know, because he's so sticky in this sort of instance. You know, I mean, we just don't have any fold equity when he's big blind, and so that's kind of one of the fundamental ways to pick up chips from stealing. Is kind of tricky for us because we've got players that are defending pretty wide, and so I do feel that, you know, they're going to make mistakes, especially Noah post flop or just in general. But to make those mistakes, you know, we're going to need a hand most of the time, and we just got to be careful, because if we play too tight and wait for a hand, you know, if the hand doesn't come, we leave our fate up to the poker gods a little bit, and you know how vicious they can be. So I'm going to just go ahead now, obviously, and raise it. He does fold, so it's interesting. He's just tried to make a liar of me after that speech. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I'll, you know, readjust if we think he's folding. But, I mean, he's calling steals 60% at the moment, and I think he's calling even wider when it's blind versus blind in position, so he's probably calling 80 or 90, so he probably just folded like top 10 or 15, I mean worse, you know, worse 10 or worse 15% hands. And there's a strong likelihood that he busts soon too, I must say, because, I mean, he's in so many hands, and he calls down pretty quick and pretty light, so interesting hand here, where it's been checked to the river after Hugh Street 3-bet and Noah called. It looks like a pretty bad flop, and Noah just looked like he went for pot control, but now he's decided to go for the bet, and it didn't make a lot of sense, did it? And I can't blame Noah for calling with the 2s there. It didn't really make a lot of sense, that line. Oh, that is too bad. Would have been good to see Hugh Street attack there. Yeah, that was a pretty fishy line by Hugh there. Yeah, I can understand what he's thinking, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I just don't really think there's a need for the Queen 5 there. The way Noah's playing, I mean, Noah's quite sticky and fishy, so why would you want to sort of 3-bet him with Queen 5? I mean, yeah. I mean, he has been folding to a few C-bets, you know, which is a bonus, something to think about. But I just don't think he's folding enough in this sort of high-pressure situation where there's a need to fold, where there's a need to get involved in that sort of spot with Queen 5. I'm going to check here and turn the straight with the flush draw. I'm going to raise here. I think that they're going to call with worse, and definitely any 9. And if they got a flush, it's bad luck. If it's not the one of the big flushes we do have outs anyway. I think Noah's going to call with any 9, any flush draw, and he's going to call with, you know, pairs and stuff like that. I think if he's got a 9, he's always calling. 2 pairs probably calling. I think he's going to think that we're bluffing a lot here and just have a big diamond. Wow, he has the same hand. How does that happen? When he snap called, I was like just so sure we were good. Just so sure. And yet we were not. Wow, he's gone with a pot. Snap pot. Problem with our hand is it doesn't really pick up equity very often on the turn. So we could have the best hand now, but I don't really want to raise and find out. And if we just flat call, any card in the deck other than a 4 or 8 is 4 or an 8 is pretty bad for us. And he did snap pot. I'm going to fold there. I mean, yeah, of course it's a little bit tight, you know, we're only heads up, we've got middle pair. But I just don't feel at the moment that that's going to be a good spot for us, out of position against the Maniac, trying to hang on and get to showdown. And if you've watched other videos, and I mean, obviously, if you guys must have heard me talking about how much I hate check calling out of position. It is just losing poker. And so I just tried to avoid the situation there. And yet I find myself in the same situation. So a little bit different though, because our hand has a little bit more playability here. And so I am going to put it on the turn for value. And I think I'm... Ooh, can we get value here? I think maybe we can. Probably missed a value bet there, I think. But, you know, he could have had hearts. And so we give him a chance to bluff. So that's something to consider. But I think he was probably calling with any 8, and he's probably going to call with worse 10s, and his range is really wide from the big blind. So yeah, I mean, we're going to lose to like King 10, Queen 10, obviously, and sometimes when he's got an ace. But I just think in general, it's just a green light. Obviously here we're just going to get it in. A little bit unfortunate that, you know, the hand that he has and the situation that it was a flip. Considering he's only M10 and it's 3-handed, we could have had him dominated a lot of the time, but obviously worked out well. And we're against our main man Noah. Heads up for all that cash. So what I'm probably going to do against him is I'm probably going to raise not every button, and I probably will try limping with some more playable hands. I think he's probably going to be a little bit too sticky to raise every hand. And I definitely want to play these types of hands that can flop quite big, I think, against him. Because he's definitely likely, I think, to overplay in an instance. I think I'm going to check call here, because we've really got kind of a bust. Excuse me, we've got a bust in hand, where if we get a 9 or a 4, obviously. The thing that scares me a little is if I turn a heart and he bets big again. What I would do. Because I don't really want to just get some massive all-in against him straight away when I feel we have a pretty big edge. It's a pretty bad card. But it might be bad for him too. He might think that we have a club some of the time. He did snap pot the flop again. Not sure if he pot controls here. I think we're going to have to go for a bet here. And just hope that we can fold out, you know, his high cards. It was kind of a good turn in that sense, I guess, that we can have clubs. So 7's not too bad. We can have a 7 as well. And he might hero, I think, with ace high some of the time and think that we had like a 9-10 straight or something. But yeah, you know, if that's what happens, it's what happens. But his range is wide, and we have 6 high. So interesting, his raise sizings here. He min before, now he's over 3x'd. So I think I'm definitely going to throw that one away, but we definitely want to try and interpret it. I mean, I guess it's a hand when he makes bigger raises, and likely a weaker, maybe steelish type hand, I guess, when he's raising smaller. If that's the case, we can take advantage of that. I definitely want to bet here. I think slow playing there isn't not much point to it, because if he's got an ace, he's stacking off. He's got a jack, he's probably stacking off. And he could have hearts or just try something funky on us. I'll make a small bet here. Protection. Pretty bad river card, because ace 10 and stuff like that, and clubs is stuff that he might like snap min raise turn with. Obviously he can have king jack, kings jacks, like some sort of monster like he had that he's trapping with. But at the same time, it's kind of a line I see fish take a bit, where they just kind of, oh, you checked flop, you have nothing, or I mean, I checked back flop, so you're betting turn with nothing and stabbing. I know that, so I'm going to raise you. And you're going to fold. Yeah, I just think that our hand was a little bit too strong to fold to this type of player when he doesn't bet flop, because he's essentially repping monsters. And I think that this type of player, sometimes they have a bit of an aneurysm and they just bug out and sort of like, no, he's bluffing, and they just do something whack. And he certainly falls in that category where he could do something pretty wacky like that. Why couldn't we have jacks there? That's a big all in. Just going to keep the pot small, I think, with this type of hand. See how much he bets here, full pot. I think I'm going to fold this one. Interesting the way he just snap pots. That could have been a call, actually. Might want to think about these decisions a little bit longer. Yeah, maybe that could have been a call, because he didn't raise pre, probably raises pre with an ace. So he's only really trying to say that he has a 9. And I guess he possibly does it with 2 pair, but he did kind of control before with the queen 9 straight. I mean, there was a flush there, but could have donk bet turn there. I think unconventional and kind of fishy against most players, but that might not necessarily be fishy against Noah. Because, well, I mean, if he doesn't have an ace, you might just fold, but... But I think he's always betting to represent it, I would think. And, against a good player, he's going to just, if we bet, sort of think, oh, well, you're trying to rep it, kind of thing, but... Noah might not necessarily respond like that. It's kind of close. I think if we had the Jack 9 gut shot, I think I'm going to check here and try a check raise, because I think to Noah it probably looks a bit bluffy. And, I mean, a lot of the time he's got nothing, but some of the time he has something and calls. And he did check back with the queen on the turn, so it worked out well. I guess we could have gone larger. But the thing is, when he checks turn, I think that... I mean, at that point he's pretty polarized. I kind of thought he had either absolutely nothing and given up, or Well, actually, I shouldn't say he's polarized. He's not really polarized, but I mean, he's just got a hand that he's got absolutely nothing, or he's just always calling kind of thing with any pair. I think because he doesn't believe us, and so I raised kind of large just to make sure those smaller type pairs that we're controlling somehow find a hero call, which I think they would have. Damn, why couldn't we get the 10 or the 6 of clubs on the turn there? Because it's quite a big pot now, but we just have very little equity against what he's representing. But he check flop and then bet small turn. But the problem is that even if he's got jacks, which you could have something like that, it's just kind of expensive to try and get him to fold. And I just don't know if we don't really know if we need to get in that sort of situation. Yeah, I'm just going to call here and pot control. This situation is a little bit different from before where we had the 4-8, because now we have the over and the backdoor spades, but also we're facing a smaller bet as well. So I think given that we haven't, wow, it's kind of close because he's been pot controlling a bit, but then he hasn't been barreling much either. Pretty close one, because we saw him check back King Queen before when the Queen turned. So what that really kind of means is if he's not betting his medium strength hands for value, then his range, like in that instance, is kind of going to be, again, well, now in the instance more polar, where he's got absolutely nothing and he's barreling, or actually he has a hand that he considers to be strong enough to go for clean value. But the Queen King he had before when he turned the Queen, I mean, and he decided to check it back on the turn. There wasn't that many scare cards in that instance. Almost bet there. Small, try and get some sort of hero call from ace high or king high once in a while. You never know. You might call with king high. He actually might not stab that much. Based on the stats and the way he's been playing, he actually might not be much of a bluffer. Just call really loose. I don't think there's any point betting here because a lot of times the chop, but he could be bluffing because flop was check and then we just check called turn. It's probably slightly, given the fact that we're in position and the way he plays, a little bit too cheap to fold. We're just having troubles connecting with the board, and these big pots is a problem. It'd be kind of good if we got to showdown here just to see what he had. I almost want to call just to just to see what he makes that size 3-bet with pre, but obviously we're only 9 high. It's not a powerhouse. But yeah, I mean, those sort of pots, I mean, that's essentially what we're looking for, isn't it? Is the opportunity to flop big and get paid off. But at the moment, we seem to be not connecting when the pot's large. Well, this is interesting that he's made that snap min raise on the turn again. And last time he did it, he had top set. I think I'm going to fold this time. We're pretty low down in our range for value betting, which is what it was essentially on the turn. And just because we saw him do that before with a strong hand. I'm just going to bet here. Just because there's so many bad turn cards, I want to try and win the hand straight away. I think I'm going to bet again and then check turn here. Check river, I should say. And just pray that he doesn't do that. But, you know, I don't think that's so bad, because, I mean, I think he has his crushed when he does that. I mean, once in a while he has, like, Jack, Queen of Spades and just played it, you know, kind of nice as a semi-bluff, I guess. Well, I don't even know if it's kind of nice, because he's risking a little bit too much for the times that we have him crushed. But, yeah, I don't even mind. I mean, I guess checking if we hit a 6 and he's got if he's got trips, I mean, we stack him on the river. But I think that, you know, most of the time, we just need to protect. And we said that he doesn't really have a tendency, we believe, to do anything too crazy with bluffing. And so we don't necessarily presume that he's going to you know, bluff river on scare cards. So we don't really get ourselves into too much trouble with the 6s, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, if it's a Queen of Spades and he bets, we can probably fold or something like that. But if it's a brick and he donks, we're probably calling. But pretty bad river card. I think he's probably going to have a 10-3 of hearts. Yeah, he can have 9-10, 10 jack. He can have hearts, I guess, that connect with the 10. Go ahead and value here. Ooh, the blinds. We've just had some problems connecting with the board, haven't we, in all these big pots? And you just hit the 10 on us then on the river, so it's a little bit annoying that we haven't been able to connect. And we keep getting these sort of really high boards when we have these. I mean, that was obviously, you know, just because he min-raised and we're in position. I don't think we can quite fold it. Virtually anything there, but yeah, interesting when he just snap pots there. I mean, I'm sure he does have some bluffs in his range. But yeah, most of the time he's kind of had it in that instance. And it's a little bit awkward, you know, because we're not really taking a long ball approach against him in terms of bluffing. Our strategy has been more to try to wait it out, small ball against him. But the problem with doing that is that every time a big hand has come along, he's had it. And if we're kind of waiting for value, it's a little bit difficult, because this is an interesting spot where we can probably fire one more barrel, can we? Certainly don't want to get raised off our hand if he goes monkey jam on us. We did just limp in though. Wow, it's kind of close. I mean, he's going to have a queen a lot. He could have a 3. Could have hearts as well, which would, well, it'd be unlucky if he backed into hearts. King 10, I guess you can have King 10, 10 jack. You can have a 3. I think we could probably fold him off a 3, but I don't even know if we can fold him when we limped in off a queen. So I'm going to just check. I'm just going to do some sort of huge. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't bet too huge. Probably got a bad queen, just made a little block bet, I guess. It was nice to actually, you know, get there on the river. Obviously, we had a lot of outs. Got shot in the flush. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of relying a little bit more on getting value, which doesn't always happen if you don't make a hand. He's been kind of letting us get to showdown a little bit in position. This looks like a sort of amount that he might bluff with. But the 9's kind of bad because you can have 8, 9, 6, 8. Probably would have bet bigger with 6, 8. He could just have nothing. Clubs. You could have clubs. You could have been betting, I guess, with a 7. 3, 4, 4, 6. He might have just stab turn and now feel he has to bet to win. 8, 9, 9, 10, nothing, 6, 8. Problem is the price we're getting here is you only have to be right like 20% of the time. King Jack must stab. Yeah, he hasn't been stabbing quite enough. Pretty close given the price. And good time for a break. And come back fresh in a minute. Be right back, guys.